Good stuff.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another session of Streaming School. I am joined right now by Mr. Orbin, and he is going to do another lesson of drama for us today. How are you?
I'm fine, thanks, Nisha. You may call me Gary. Of course, Nisha I was Nisha's head of year, if anyone cares and is listening. Is that why you find it difficult to call me Gary? For reasons I totally can't call my old teachers by their first name.
I know. I was going to say Gary, and then I was like, is it weird? I don't know.
Feels too strange, don't worry. Good stuff.
All right, cool. It is on your screen, and I will let you carry on.
Thanks very much. Great. I hope everyone is well and at home and enjoying their lessons from Streaming School and from their own schools, wherever they are. In these sessions, we've talked lots of things: acting, directing, designing, and now we've moved on to looking at practitioners. And where else to start but with Konstantin Stanislavski. So in lesson 12 last week, we looked at the basics of the system and what he was trying to achieve in his aim, that is for naturalism and for truth on stage. And we're going to go into a bit more detail about the system today and talk about how you would write about it, where Stanislavski might come up in essays and exams, and what you might write about various elements of the system. So, without further ado, while I'm sharing my screen, please try to think about what you remember from our last session about Stanislavski. Where is he from? What is he trying to achieve? When was he alive? And now I will begin to answer some of those questions. Nisha, can you confirm that I'm sharing my screen okay?
Yep. Yep, you are.
Wonderful. Okay, thank you. So, Konstantin Stanislavski then. This is a chap who was Russian from 1863 to 1938. He lived. And he's the founder of Moscow Art Theatre, the father of the dominant style certainly within theatre, television and film, which is naturalism, i.e. when we're acting, we try to be believable. In the vast majority, especially of film and television, but also the majority of theatre, and the thing he's known for really is creating a system to train actors to act naturalistically. Because it's not enough just to say to an actor, just be really believable, just be truthful. He was acknowledging that, well, that's really hard, because if you're playing a character who's been in a car crash, maybe you've never been in a car crash. You certainly haven't just now been in a car crash, so you might not know what that's like. So I'm going to help you, this is what Stanislavski said, I'm going to help you to have the tools to be able to do that believable performance. Okay? And he says there, a quote I shared last time, the actor must believe in everything happening on stage that is related to the play. The actor needs to believe it. They need to believe they're not on a stage. They need to believe there aren't 1,000 people watching them perform. They need to believe they're not talking to other actors. They need to believe totally in the world. How is this possible? That's a central question here. And he answered that by his system. So Stanislavski developed the technique in the early 1900s, and they've been used ever since to help actors create believable emotions and actions in the characters they portray. The fundamental thing here is that it is not easy just to be believable. Actors need to have some techniques to be able to do that, and that's what he called his system. Okay, here it's not totally exhaustive, but there's a lot of things here that are key, some of which we talked last week, and some of which we'll cover today. So emotional memory, method of physical actions, subtext, given circumstances, if, objective, super objective, and through line. So he wrote books, 3 key books on this. So it's not possible just to sum it up neatly in 8 headings, but if you try to, these are 8 pretty good ones. Okay, so I've just got a quote from Stanislavski about all of these, just a little recap of what each of them are. So given circumstances, all the circumstances that are given to an actor to take into account as he creates his role. Okay, so that's what he's trying to, they're all the facts that are given by the playwright and by the director. Subtext. Subtext is the unspoken thoughts and motives of characters, what they really think and believe. So when a teacher walks up to you and says, oh, hello, what are they really saying? They're saying, why are you late? Or why are you in my class? Or why did you walk in with that attitude? The subtext, the meaning behind the line. And objective. You should not try to express the meaning of your objectives in terms of a noun. That can be used for a unit, but the objective must always be a verb. So on one of your lines. So again, let's think of the teacher. When you walk into your classroom as a pupil and the teacher says, oh, hello. What is the objective? What's the teacher trying to do then? Are they trying to intimidate? Are they trying to to attack. It depends how they say it, of course. But they might say, oh, hello, and they mean it with a real warmth. And like, I love having you in my class. And that adjective then, the verb might be to welcome. But there are many ways to say hello. And it could be, and by fixing the objective then, you're able to do a really interesting, believable performance by thinking about your objective there. Okay, and then emotion memory. So your emotion memory can bring back feelings you have experienced. So it's the idea that by thinking about the emotions you experienced yourself, that can help you to truthfully show an emotion on stage. So you might feel petrified because of this car crash you've been in. You're in this play, and you've never been in a car crash, but there is a time you've been petrified when you were lost in the woods in the middle of the night, or you had a power cut, or whatever. You were something where you're petrified, and you can draw on that emotion to help you to play this character truthfully, even though you haven't been in their exact situation. Okay, now focus on exams. So what I can't find on exam papers is something that strictly says, with Stanislavski's system, name 2 methods, or something like that. Okay, I haven't seen that. If you do an example where that is the case, then I apologise. But I haven't seen that myself. I've done a bit of research. But what you do get is things around rehearsal techniques. So name 2 rehearsal techniques that you could use to explore this relationship. And having an understanding of different practitioners will allow you to answer that question really easily. And then as a director, explain how one of these techniques would help prepare the actors for their roles. And then thinking about Stanislavski's system for a question about rehearsing in any play where you're trying to achieve something truthful or evoke an emotional response from the audience is perfect. Okay, so what we're going to talk about is what you might do in rehearsal for a range of the elements of Stanislavski's system for these 4, okay, that would help you to answer these questions or similar questions. So, if you want to write about what you do in rehearsal and think about given circumstances, remember the question was, explain the second bit there, explain how one of these techniques would help prepare the actors for their roles. Okay, so how would using given circumstances prepare an actor for their role? And then you need to be able to explain very, very briefly what you would do. And that's what I've set out here. Okay, so the first thing you do, you want to focus on given circumstances in rehearsal. The first thing you do is analyze the text, the script, and you write out the facts you have from that character or about the character, and you look at the stage directions. You might say he is a man in his mid-30s and he is overweight and going bald. So you look at stage directions. You look at lines your character says. Your character might say, I'm fed up of working here. Okay, then that's a given circumstance. You know how that character feels about the job. And lines others say about your character. Someone else might say, why is he always so angry? He walks out here like he's always in a bad mood. So that's lines other people say about your character. It becomes a fact of a given circumstance, a circumstance that's given to you. And then the second thing you do in rehearsal is speak to the director about what they consider to be given circumstances. If your director says, I want you to play this character like they're always anxious about new situations, then that's a given circumstance. It's given to you by the director instead of the playwright, but it's still given. Okay? So that's a very, very detailed answer. If in your exam you had a 2-mark question, you wouldn't need to give that much. But if that was some sort of 6, 8, 10-mark question, and I have seen those, then you were able to answer that really nicely by talking about what you would do with given circumstances. Okay, we'll go through 3 more examples of this then. So subtext, all right? You can't just say, I'm going to use subtext in rehearsal. You need to spell out what you're going to do a bit. So first thing you do is annotate the text, annotate your script and your lines. So the question you're really asking is, what does my character really mean by this line? You gave the example of the teacher says, oh, hello. And the subtext is, why are you late? Or what are you doing here? Okay? And then you rehearse. So you start by doing something that's sort of sitting down with the play script, and then you start rehearsing. So you use the lines as subtext instead of the line in the play. So when you are rehearsing it, you don't say, oh, hello. You say, why are you late? Or you say, what are you doing here? Okay, so you say one of those lines instead of the line. It helps you to really play that subtext, because then some gestures and facial expression will come out quite naturally when you're saying, why are you late? You might look at your watch, for example, while you're saying, why are you late? And then the third thing you do, if you're rehearsing, focusing on subtext, is you say the actual lines, but try to act the subtext. So you say the line again. The line there is, oh, hello. But you might look at your watch while you're doing it. So you've thought about the subtext, about the meaning behind the lines. You've used that rehearsal technique. And now when you rehearse, you're saying, oh, hello, but looking at your watch. And that means that you're sort of showing really clearly that when you're saying hello, you don't just mean hello. There's a meaning behind it. Okay, next example. Objectives. So what's your objective behind each line? And you use a verb there. So as a rehearsal technique, you take some of your lines and you add a verb to them, to attack, to persuade, to beg, whatever you think it should be. Okay? And then number two, before saying the line, say your character's objective out loud. So in that last example, let's say as a teacher say, oh, hello, is my line. And my objective there might be to intimidate. So as an actor rehearsing, I'll be in the scene and I'll say to intimidate. Oh, hello. And then I will say the line again, showing the objective without saying it out loud. I might just think it. I think in my head to intimidate, and I'll say, oh, hello. So I'm going to play the objective, initially saying it out loud to help me really remember it while I'm saying the line, and then I will get rid of it and leave only the line remaining. Okay, and then rehearsal for emotion memory. What do I actually do as an actor in rehearsal if I want to be applying Stanislavski's techniques of emotion memory? Well, the first thing is you work out what the character's feeling at a moment in the play. You work out in this little section of lines here, I'm really, really jealous, or feeling really, really confident, or I'm really uncertain, or sad or angry, or whatever. Okay? Second thing there is you identify a time in your life when you felt that feeling, when you felt incredibly lonely, for example. And number three, before you rehearse the scene, try some relaxation exercises. So lie on the floor, do some deep breaths, things the teacher may have done with you, a bit of a meditation of you're at the beach and the waves are lapping and all those kind of things that make you in a very relaxed state. And now you try and picture so while doing this, remember what that feeling was like. So get yourself in that sort of state. Think about the emotion, the loneliness, for example, that you need to feel, and put yourself back in a place where you felt that emotion. So imagine yourself at home and everyone's gone out and they've left you all day, or when everyone's in the playground in groups and you're sort of on your own. So put yourself back in that, get your body in that relaxed state first, some deep breathing, and then think about a time when you felt that emotion and really try and put yourself back in that place. And then that's the time to start rehearsing your scene immediately. Then go, right, I'm ready now, off you go. And try acting that scene where the emotion should really be something that you feel in your body. And then, and sort of extension of that really is to find a prop that reminds you of that memory. So if you're in the middle of a play, it's not always easy for you to find 5 minutes just to go into a quiet corner and try and think about the emotion of loneliness and get yourself do some breathing exercises. That's not very practical. So what Stanislavski suggested is actually if you can find a prop that sort of reminds you of that memory, it might be, something that you'd always have on you at lunchtime in the playground, or something that reminds you of your family and the day they went out and you had to just stay at home all day and do homework or whatever. Find a little prop that reminds you of it and actually help you to more quickly access that memory. That's the theory. Okay, there's another type of question you might get where you need to talk about practitioners, and that's where you're writing coursework or portfolio type questions. So this is from the EduCAS portfolio about a part that you've played or a scene that you've created, a play you've created, but others will be very similar, other examples. This one says, how have ideas and techniques of your chosen practitioner or style been incorporated into the piece? So you need to say, well, we looked at Brecht or physical theatre or Arto or Katie Mitchell or Stanislavski. How have they been incorporated into the piece? So you would say something like this. I've stolen this from a former student, and this is a pretty good piece of it. Just read it out. It's quite long. Just read it out. Okay. So how have ideas of your chosen practitioner or style been incorporated into the piece? And we're talking about Stanislavski here. So we decided to use Stanislavski as our practitioner as he wanted to portray real life on the stage, where the audience feel engrossed in the characters' lives and emotions. We hope the audience feel this and then apply this to their own experiences and are encouraged to make connections with people regardless of first impressions. So a really sort of a concise summing up of, I know what Stanislavski is, and this is why it's relevant for us. We decided that early on in the piece, conflict should arise between my character, Jodie, a black female, and 2 white females have a small dispute over the recently elected president of the US, Donald Trump. because he's a couple of years old. At first, I decided that my character's objective was to voice my views on Trump. So they've applied objectives there. And try to make these two females consider what I'm saying, as I not only believe that he dislikes black race, but also women as a whole. When talking about Trump, I use hand gestures, such as pointing my hands out, quite a fast pace, and constantly turn my body and head towards the other characters to keep their attention and show my passion on the topic. This also shows how badly I want my opinion to be heard and understood. However, I felt that because my character's in a situation I've never really experienced before, it's hard to truly understand them. So we've mentioned objectives there in that first paragraph and talked about how those were applied, and now we move on to emotion memory here. So therefore, I use emotion memory to think of any past experiences where I felt similar emotions that are demanded by the role I'm playing. I thought about a time where I wanted to express a community problem and be persuasive about the issue and why I believe it should change, and then incorporated those feelings of concern and passion into my character by directly looking at the other characters with a determined expression. I thought about how I used body language by turning towards them and talking, such as when I said, "We deserve better," and then kept changing my tone of voice from being quite angry to solemn, showing that it's a tough topic to discuss. I've used this past experience to inform my character's physicality and voice to portray similar actions and messages. Okay, so we've gone through two types of questions today, where knowledge of a practitioner is really relevant. One's about rehearsal techniques, and one's about really the rehearsal, like how you've applied the theories of a particular practitioner, and you might write that in a coursework or portfolio type. Okay. Now, if you want to go and learn a bit more about Stanislavski before we move on to other practitioners, there's a video here, Stanislavski in practice, and then another one about how to apply given circumstances to a script. So I hope you enjoy those videos and develop your understanding of Stanislavski through them. And then task, I'll give you two options today, and they're the ones that we've gone through in the session. So you might think about two characters in a play you've studied and answer these two-mark questions. Name a couple of rehearsal techniques, and then just say what you would do with one of those techniques. And then the other option, or if you want to do both, thinking of a play you performed in, how have ideas and techniques of your chosen practitioner or style been incorporated into the piece, and try and do about 300 or 400 words on that. Okay, so I hope that's been a useful two lessons there, going through Stanislavski and some of his theory. And he's, as I've said, I think he's the most sort of key, important person as a practitioner who's still relevant today. And there are others who you might find more fascinating, more relevant to what you're doing, more something that you'd like to see more of in the future. But really, you need Stanislavski as that grounding to understand everything that comes after it. So I hope it's been a useful introduction. We'll look at some other practitioners from our next lesson. Thanks very much, Nisha. Back to you.
Thanks a lot. Thanks a lot. That was a good session. What have you got planned for the rest of your day?
More calls. It's very strange having meetings over the phone all day, but that's where it is. And as time goes on, I stop wearing shirts and get a bit more casual and try not to be too informal in other ways. Try and remain professional. So that's me. And yourself?
Yeah, just got some work to do. Going to try and sit out in the sun and work. See if I can find some shade for my laptop so it doesn't overheat.
Okay.
But yeah.
All right. Enjoy. Have a great day. Enjoy the sunshine.
Thanks. You too.
Bye, Nisha. Thanks. Bye.
Bye. That's all for today. If anyone wants to catch up on any of the sessions, you can find them on YouTube and on Facebook. I'll put all the tasks and resources in them as well. And we have the Streaming School website that you can catch up on things as well. Thank you.